Hello, friends. Welcome to Getting Bookish. This is a podcast where we talk about all kinds of bookish topics. And this week we're talking about what we read in November. This is our bookish brief. We always say it, but it's our favorite
It's our
episode.
favorite.
We just love getting to reminisce over the books that we've read, whether for good reasons or bad reasons. We like talking about them. And so we're excited to share those with you now. And I feel like we didn't necessarily talk all month about what we read. So I'm really interested to know what you read this month, Shawna.
Yeah, so we really didn't talk about what we read. And usually we do. It's
Yeah,
probably because of the holidays. We've been so busy, so our
right.
messages are a little bit shorter than normal. But I didn't have too many reads this month. So let me just start with Call It What You Want. This is a YA book that I got in a subscription box. This is by Bridget Kemmerer. And this is great because you are rooting for the two main souls in this book. Like from the very beginning, you want them to get together. This deals with a lot of teen topics like loneliness, making mistakes, feeling the repercussions, and what it means to be a true friend. It's kind of like a modern day Robin Hood in parts of it,
Oh,
but
fun.
it was definitely interesting. It kept my attention. I think I gave it 4 stars. So
Nice.
it was pretty good. Yeah, I definitely would recommend that. It has a weird cover. It's like soft. Almost feels like a. Do you
Ooh,
know what I'm talking about?
I do. I like those.
Yeah, it's fun to hold.
Like it's, yeah.
I'm a texture person.
Yeah.
My next book. So, I think I said this on the last podcast. I think my favorite movie is Shawshank Redemption, and I love it. And I've always wanted to read the book by Stephen King to see how similar or different it is. So I ended up having to buy this is a collection of his short stories because that
Oh,
story is a short story. So I actually have a couple in here that I would be interested to read. But it's not called Shawshank Redemption. It's called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. The actual story is it's not a very long story. It's maybe 120 pages or something. And there are so many differences, but it's so weird because I can actually say I enjoyed the movie better, which is very odd. But probably because it was almost like just an overview of the movie. But it was so fun to read because I know the movie like the back of my hand. So reading through it, I'm like, ooh, that's different. Ooh, that's different, you know? And it was just really good. It didn't let me down. I really enjoyed it. Okay, the next book I have, and the back says it's so good. It says The Eighth Story, 19 Years Later. This is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Do you say cursed or cursed?
cursed.
Cursed Child.
Yes.
Parts one and two. This is written like a play, like a script. So that's something that you just kind of have to get over. And you do get over it. Like in the first couple pages, you're over it. And I think that's what made me not want to read Daisy Jones and the Six at first. But then after a while, you're
Yeah.
like, I don't even realize it's written
You
in
know,
a
it's
script.
just a part of the story.
It's so good. Oh, it's so good. I sat on this book for like 3 years not reading it, and I want to read it again. It was just nostalgic, and it just makes me wish, because she didn't write this, but it just makes me wish that she would write more.
Yes,
I
in
want
that
more.
world with those
Yes,
characters.
yes. I
Yeah.
just want more. The next book I read, I don't have because I actually listened to it on audio. It's called City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. Have you heard of that one?
I have, but
It's
don't really know anything about it.
Here's the title or the book cover. It's really pretty.
It is.
Um, so this one is it's a very unique way of telling a story. It starts out with an old lady. She's like 70s or something, and she says, "Okay, I'll tell you, Angela, the story of how I met your dad." And so you're wondering the whole time, is Angela her daughter? Is her dad her husband? Is her dad like is her dad just a friend? Did she have an affair with this dad? And, you know, and so you don't know who this character is to her. And you go through the entire story, starting from when she was maybe 16. And so each time she encounters a male character, you're thinking, is this him? You know, because she says, let me tell you how I met him and why, or what he means to me, or something like that. And it's a very raw and unique story. This girl goes to live with her aunt in the theater district in New York back in like maybe the 20s or something, 30s. Hope I got that right. It's not a place where a young lady should be.
Right.
She gets into a lot of trouble. But you just go through her whole life, and there's some pretty heart-wrenching things in there, but the way it ties up at the end, it's great. So I really enjoyed that one. Let's see, my last book. So this was an Audible original, and it's called Heads Will Roll. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
So it's a full cast. Meryl Streep is one of the...
wow.
Some other names. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I have to just say I hated it. In fact, I DNF'd it after 5 minutes.
It was bad.
Yeah. You know what? And I do have to say, I'm in the minority. This thing got tons of 5-star ratings. It's very crass, and the jokes are very like, I'm telling a joke right now. And I don't know. It's just not the way I like to listen to a story at all. And I was like, this is just, I'm not even gonna try to keep going with this. I don't remember who it's by, and I don't really care. So I just know that I gave it a shot, and I'm done with that.
So do you think you're going to keep trying the Audible originals?
Well, I did have one that I enjoyed.
Did you? Okay, because I was thinking, I think last month you had one also that was not a win.
Yeah, and I think I think I've enjoyed 1 in 6. So I don't know what it is about the originals. Maybe I won't try it. The only reason why I liked the one that I did was because it was about, I think it was about World War II, and it was nonfiction. And I found it interesting, but I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I won't try them anymore. Maybe it's just not my thing.
I was just curious what you were thinking on the Audible. I always download one every month because we get them for free with a subscription.
Yeah.
And I never listen to them. So I have a whole bunch, but I don't think I've listened to any.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was going to be good. It was a full cast of great people that I would love to listen to.
Sounds like it would be.
Yeah. No, not for me.
That day.
And so that's it. That's it for my reads in November.
Well, I feel like I could potentially guess, but I definitely want to hear from you. What are your pick and skip?
Okay.
You have that, oh no, I'm not sure yet, look on your face.
Well, my skip is easy. Heads will roll because I DNF'd it, but I'm almost like, is that okay to make that my skip? I mean, sure. I guess so, because I didn't finish it.
Right.
I don't want to skip any of the other ones, so we'll just call it that. My pick, I really enjoyed what I read, but I have to say, like, there's no question. My pick would be Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. And
love it.
I will be reading this again. This took me less than 2 days to read. I just could not put it down. It was so good. I just loved how they went back to things that were happening in the original stories. It was just so fun.
Yay.
So those are my picks and skips. So Liz, what did you read for November?
All right. So I had a great reading month.
Good.
Where I read a lot of things that I really enjoyed. And I actually read quite a few like physical books, which is kind of a change of pace for me. Yeah. So, but of course the first one isn't. The first one is Aurora Rising, which is kind of hard to say. Mm-hmm. Aurora Rising by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I read their Illuminate series earlier this year, and it's a YA science fiction title. And this is the same genre and was also really fun. I gave it 4 stars. It takes place with these characters who kind of are together, I want to say accidentally, because this boy decides to go save this girl, or he attends to this like SOS call, and it ends up being like this girl that he saves. And so this kind of unusual cast of characters comes together, and they go off on an adventure. It was a little bit cliched at times, which is why I gave it 4 stars, but it was still a well-developed story. It was really interesting. So I enjoyed it. Just a tiny bit cliched, but it's okay. The next book I read, and this is another one of those with that like soft touch cover.
Yes, I love them.
So this is called The Beautiful by Renee Adaya. And I read another series of hers, which is fantastic. I also have to show you guys what the cover. Look at this. It's like blood red.
Wow.
And it has this cool, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it has like this imprint of this lion on the front of it.
That's cool.
Aside from being completely gorgeous, this book is about vampires. And I'm super burnt out on vampire fiction, but this was a really kind of fresh take on vampires. So it's YA fantasy, really well written, super fun, 4 stars. All right. Next one was a reread for me, Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. 5 stars. Again, I didn't change my star rating on that one. That's just a continuing in that series. Then, the book I've been waiting for all year. So if you haven't heard me already sing the praises of Maggie Stiefvater, you've obviously not been listening to the podcast. Her newest book came out this month, Call Down the Hawk, and it was blow my mind good. Oh, wow. Like, incredible good. Like, I own 2 copies of it.
Why are they different?
So this one came in Owl Crate, and it's a special edition just for Owl Crate, so it got a special edition cover. And then this one I ordered from Maggie's local bookstore because she signed all of them.
Oh, wow.
So I own 2 copies of it. This one
Which one
was
did
so
you read?
good. I read this one.
The blue one.
Because it came first.
Okay.
But I made notes all through it. I was going to try to find a page where I had like...
Did you read it in 2 days or something?
Yeah, I read it super fast. Like I underlined things. Oh, wow. I made notes in the margin. It was everything that I thought it was going to be. All the stars. I feel like not even 5 stars is enough. It was fabulous.
Is that a continuation of a series? Or a standalone?
So it breaks off. It has a character from the Raven Boys series. Okay. And then it's a whole new setting, a whole new story. The rest of it's a new cast of characters, but it kind of brings him.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, it was really fun because you know him, and then like getting to know all these other people, but also getting to know him in a different way because Maggie's amazing at characters. Yeah. All right. The next book I read was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I have never been a fan of Holly Black, but this was amazing. I listened to it on audio. It takes place in like the fairy tale, not the fairy tale, like the fairy land, the land of fairies. And I gave this 4 stars. The reason it wasn't a 5-star book for me was because you have to go in with some knowledge of the fairyland and kind of how the fairy courts work in order for the book to make sense. If you didn't have that pre-existing knowledge, you would be pretty lost at the beginning. But it was really well done, and it made me think, maybe I don't dislike Holly Black. Maybe I just read one book by her that I didn't love. The next one I read was There Will Come a Darkness. This was also an audiobook. It's by Katie Rose Poole. This was only a 3-star book for me. It just wasn't a great read. It was kind of, the whole book read like an introduction. Oh. There's like no world building, and it was just like it was kind of drudgery reading through it, but it was 500 pages. So it
Yeah.
was a massive book. But
Nothing
the next
happened.
book might be really interesting. I just can't imagine actually reading it.
Don't you hate books like that?
Oh, it was really difficult. So then this is a fun one. And if you guys are looking for a good gift for a
Oh,
bookish friend, I totally recommend this. It is Weird Things Customers Say in Bookstores by Jen Campbell. And that's exactly what it is it's just, oh, there's my receipt from when I bought it. But it's just
oh, little
these,
conversation pieces.
yeah, and that's all it is. It's
Oh, how fun.
people have
I
like
need that.
submitted like all these cute little funny stories
Oh, I bet you
that
breezed
people
through that.
say in bookstores and in libraries, and it's just hilarious. The one on the front says, "Do you have any books by Jane Eyre?" And the lady's like, "What?" So if you need a fun bookish gift, I highly recommend this.
That's
It
so
was easy and
cute.
quick. Um, I gave it 5 stars because it was just a fun thing. And I'm like, I want to write down the funny things that happen in the bookstore, like in the back, like add
Yes.
to it.
Yes. Oh, that's so adorable.
So the next book I read, another Maggie Stiefvater book, The Scorpio Races. This is a standalone of hers that follows the legend of the Kapalishka,
Hmm.
which is a kind of like magical water horse.
Hmm.
But the book takes place in November, so Camille, my friend that we met a couple episodes ago, she and I both read it this month. There's this food called the November cake in the book, and we both made them from the recipe that Maggie Stiefvater developed. Like, we were huge nerds this month. This is always a 5 star book for me. I read it every year. Um, it's just so well done. You don't have to love horses to read it either. I didn't read it for a long time because I was like, that's a horse book. I don't really care for horse books. No, it was really good. Okay. Another amazing book I read. See, this was just a good reading month.
Yes.
The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This was fantastic. It takes place on the Yale campus, and the premise is what if the secret societies, like Skull and Bones, had magic? Like, who would police them? What would happen? And it was fascinating. I read it last month and I listened to it again this month, and it was that good. Like, I could have read it back to back. There were so many things I caught the second time that I didn't catch the first time.
Oh, how fun.
So, those were my books.
Oh,
It was a
wonderful.
good reading month.
Yes. And so now
But
I'm going to ask you a really
yeah,
hard
I was saying
question.
that that's a really hard
What is your pick and skip? I feel like your skip may be easy, but I'm very interested on what your pick is going to be.
question. So, my skip is definitely There Will Come a Darkness. It's
Right.
the only book that I gave a 3 star
3 stars.
rating to. Everything else was 4 or 5 stars. Um, I mean, no, it wasn't. It wasn't an okay book, but I did read the whole thing.
Yeah.
So there it was. I don't recommend it. It really read like an introduction. And if you go onto Goodreads, that's the general consensus. Um, uh, you know what? I want to say I'm torn, but I'm really not torn. This is my pick
Call
of the
down the
month.
hawk.
Yeah.
I
If
figured.
this book hadn't come out this month, this would have been a much harder decision because I
Yeah.
read some really amazing books. But this picks up with Ronan, who's one of my favorite characters from the Raven Boys, and it just like it took this world that was like this big and it made it like this big. Like
Oh,
it
how fun.
was so good. All right. So that's my pick. I'll stop obsessing over it.
I'm
No, I
sure
won't.
next month you'll be like, and book number 7 was a reread. Call down the
Yeah,
hawk.
I am sure I will reread it next month.
Well, that was fun. I think we both had some good books this month.
Yeah.
And next month is our last month to hit our goals.
I am going to hit my goal. Are
Good.
you going to hit your goal?
Well, It depends. I have
Okay.
not counted any of the chapter books I've read aloud to the kids. If I had counted those, I absolutely would have hit the goal, but I haven't counted those. I should
I
have.
think those absolutely count.
I
You're
know.
reading.
So
So,
next year I'm gonna start counting those. I don't want to go back and like
right.
find everything, but that's gonna be one of my things that I'm gonna do for next year is definitely count those in there. I mean, why wouldn't I count Narnia? Like it's a book that.
Right. Well, and I would read, like, I have a list of books that I want to reread, and they include things like Peter Pan.
Yeah.
And so if you read Peter Pan aloud to your kids, I still feel like it's a book to count because I'm definitely going to count it when I
Yeah.
read it.
I need to. And I haven't been talking about them on the podcast. I don't know why I put that kind of like drew that line, but I'm like, I could have, really introduced some great kids chapter
Yeah.
books. But, Liz and I did talk about that, about, I wasn't doing that. And so we were talking about, I'll start doing that from now on and adding those in there and, doing like my favorite picture book that we've read over the month and things like that, just to
I
in
love it.
case you
I'm excited.
guys in case there's listeners that have kids of any ages really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that'll help adding those in there. Yay.
Yay.
And that is it for our bookish brief for November. If you would like to know more about what we're reading, what we have read, and get into some chats and discussions with us, please come over to our Facebook page at Getting Bookish. We would love to have you over there. And don't forget to tune into our next episode. We have a little bit of a bonus episode for you. Liz and I pulled some of our favorite children's books, and we're going to talk about those, everything from picture books to middle grade books. So might give you some Christmas ideas for those young people in your lives. And that is it for this episode. So we will see you next time. Bye.